We're on the back side of our notes of parallel and perpendicular lines. To remind you again what we know about parallel and perpendicular lines. Yeah, go ahead, George.
They have the same slope.
Parallel lines have the same slope. So exactly the same slope for parallel lines. Yep.
Opposite or reciprocal.
So perpendicular is opposite and reciprocal. So remember that's just like the long way of saying flip the slope and change the sign. So we'll talk about how to find the equation. Again, we're finding the equation of the line just like we did on the front side. It's just now they give us an equation rather than like giving you the slope or giving you 2 points. So like for number 7, they tell us it goes through 6, -2, and is parallel to y equals 1/3 x plus 7. So what do I take from that? How am I going to use that? I'm going to use the 1/3 for my slope. So there's our slope. Their b doesn't really matter to me. It's just kind of extra information. So that 7 is kind of just, don't really want to use it. It's not really helpful. And so this is my x and y that I'm going to use. So I know it goes through that point, and it's going to be parallel to 1/3. So now we can write that equation, or find the b, I guess. So -2, m is 1/3, x is 6, plus our b. So 1/3 of 6 ends up being 2. So we can subtract 2. So we end up with b is -4. And so that's for my new line. -4. So that would be the line that's parallel to the one we see there, but would go through 6, -2. So why is example 8 a little bit trickier? What's wrong with example 8, or what makes it
It's
tougher?
not in slope-intercept form.
It's not in slope-intercept form, so it's a really similar question, but before we can do this problem, I would have to get this in slope-intercept form first. So I do that first. Once I have that slope, then I could use it. So in a problem like this, so we want it to look like y equals mx plus b, so I can tell what the m is. Now, some of you guys are better at this than others, and so maybe you can do some of it in your head. I would highly recommend, if you're not like completely sure, that you would make sure you write things out. So I'm going to move this 5x over. So I get a -5x plus 8. And then I'm going to divide by 2. So here's my equation of my first line. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have boxed that in. Do that. So this is the line I want to be parallel to. So I'm taking the slope out of this line. I'm going to use this m and my new point. So again, I'm not using their b at all. I'm not really using this equation anymore. I'm just using their slope, so the -5/2. So here's x and y. Now this time the -2's can cancel. So I'll just be left with 5 there. So b in this case actually ends up being 0. So our line is going to be a -2/5. No, sorry, -5/2. I'm switching things up. plus 0, or I can just leave it this way. All right, questions there at all? And finally with perpendicular, so looking at the next two, they're asking us for perpendicular. And I'm probably just gonna finish them up since we have enough time. So perpendicular. So here's my x and y. Here's my equation, but I don't use the same slope. What am I gonna do? Flip it and make it negative. So flip it over, make it negative. Put your note, thanks for the answer, but put your mask up. So -5/1, or -5. Flip it over, make it negative. So I'm using that new slope. I'm not even using that other equation at all anymore. So I get a -10 plus b. So b ends up being 10. So then I can write my equation with my new n and my new b. Now, we're in Algebra 2 now, so not all the numbers will work out to be super nice anymore. So from time to time, so like in number 10, our numbers actually don't work out to be very nice numbers. So we'll talk about those quickly. I just want to show you guys that last example, and then you guys will have the rest of the time to work on homework. So it's still going to be a good chunk of time. So now this time, it's perpendicular to this -3, so our slope becomes what? 1/3. We have to flip it over and change the sign. But the issue is, I'm going to take 1/3 of -8, and that's not a nice number. So we are going to have to use a little bit with decimals here. The -8/3 right now, I can add that over to the other side. But I have to do some rounding. That should be plus b. So 8/3 is like 2.7-ish. So I'm adding 2.7 to 7, so it's gonna be like 9.7 for my b. About. So it's okay for it to be a decimal. Don't think you did something wrong just because it's a decimal. Right? Questions there? So homework is listed there for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to work through that and hopefully get things done. Good work getting through all the notes.
Thanks.